you ever, and if I recall, like you had some bag issues going on with your car?
Oh yeah, I'm getting that's actually getting fixed right now as we speak because I'm too lazy to do anything to the car anymore. Nor do I have the place to really do it. But yeah, no, that the rear bags are getting fixed at the moment as we speak. Well, swapped
So,
out.
so you figured out what the leak was?
Well, there was no leak. It was and it turned into a pineapple. So like on the round of the band, there's like this metal, cords that like keep it solid. Like no, there was it bursted, so like it looked like SpongeBob's house down,
Oh,
under the sea. It was pretty wild, and I was advised to not drive on it, but I drove on it for like 2 weeks after that too. And like
because you
every
could.
bump I hit, like it was just like, just like waiting for it, like the wait, is it gonna happen? But luckily, nothing happened, and it's sitting at the shop right now, getting ready for low show.
Man, even I'm sure coming into the office, you were just like,
Oh, do you know the
just
road that we drive on every
right. That's
day?
what I'm saying. Like, I'm
It's
sure you were loving that.
oh god, it's so bad. It was so bad, but luckily, new struts, new bags, courtesy of Bag Riders,
Nice.
and yeah.
So one of the things we've been talking about recently is I think we've all sort of as car folk, quote unquote, um, aspirational car purchases, and I feel like this could go a lot of different ways, right? You could either
So
be
many different ways.
super new, it could be OG, it could be builds, like it really kind of can run quite the gamut, and even throughout the office we're finding a couple folks that have sort of different cars of
and
mine and all
and
that kind of
different
fun.
and different opinions. So many different opinions over here.
Everyone's got opinions.
Everyone's got an opinion.
And so in your case, where does your journey start as far as cars that you would want to own? Aspirational cars you would want to own.
Oh, there's so many, but like the first one that I'm definitely gonna have to come into mind right now is a W124 500E.
Oh,
Um, Probably one of my favorite cars and one car that I'd love to have in the garage at one point in my life, but it's just getting so far more out of reach just the more and longer you wait. Um, but yeah, that's by far for me. Body lines are amazing on it. Design and built by Porsche as well. The thing with it's what is that? An M119 5.0 V8 in there. Like
yep.
you can't go wrong.
You know that car in particular, like there's a lot going on with it because it's basically a widened E class,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And then in the production of that car, it started production in Mercedes, and if I recall, they were then shipped to Porsche to
Yep.
go through the manufacturing plant there, and then back to Mercedes. So that car is almost just as much of a Porsche
Than it
as
is a
it is a
Mercedes.
Mercedes.
So, and as everybody knows, I'm a big VW Audi Porsche guy, so of course. But the Albanian in me just sticks with the Mercedes, and it's like, I need it. Like, I need it. I need it. But that would probably
Yeah,
be my first go to if I ever just hit the lotto and was like, all right, first garage, let's go. And that's probably going to be the first car in there.
a really good buddy of mine, Marco Girassi, who owns TLG Auto in North Hollywood, Porsche repair shop. He had one of those for a period of time, and we went on a couple drives, and like, dude, that he even went to the here's the best part. So in Carson, where they have the Porsche Experience Center, they have a Cars and Coffee, and I forget what I think you call it, like morning shift or something along those lines at that location. And he rolled up with that car for a Saturday meet,
Oh,
and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're more than welcome to come on in." Like it is again, it's just as much of a Porsche as it is a
oh
Mercedes.
yeah.
I mean, and just the flares of those
The,
fenders,
the body lines are
just
just beautiful on that
yeah,
car.
super comfortable drive. Like that's a car I could drive across the U.S., like do big road trips in, and have zero doubts for that drive.
Yeah, not one bit.
Yeah,
That 5.0, don't get me wrong, you'll be stopping at the gas station a lot with that V8, but either way, that thing is it's the one dream that I'd love to have. I'd love to have that car.
right. But I mean, like, if you're owning that car, are you really concerned about the pump?
No, not one bit. That's why I want it.
So over on my side, like, I don't know, I have a pretty eclectic taste in cars. I would almost argue that my aspirational car is currently in my garage. Like it was the car I grew up with and family car and stuff like that. But always interested in adding to the stable, so to speak. And there's one car that I almost pulled the trigger on several years ago, and this was back when I was working in a bicycle shop, and I wanted to build a 2002 BMW 2002, but then put a VW TDI motor in
V-dub for the win. You can't
it.
go wrong.
And that was in the heat of Dieselgate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the motors were bountiful across the board. And I would want to do one of the earlier ones that was like 69 to 71 with the round rear tail lights.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it was like 72 or 73, they moved to the square tail lights. But one of the builds I absolutely love from these things is he's a fiberglass carbon fiber guy out of Costa Mesa, California, and it's called Son of Cobra.
Mm-hmm.
And he does this full, I think now he offers like a full carbon tub, and he also does like a full carbon fiber kit. Yeah, like there you go. It's just has
That's
just the
sick.
right amount of bulge to it without being like, this is definitely a hail
perfect.
to early like vintage, like, well, at this point now vintage racers.
Yeah.
But like the 2002s at the time of like, you know, racing cars, dude, that thing fits the bill.
Oh, that is actually a very sick build.
Yeah. And they do offer like a full carbon tub now. I think they're going to be doing, it seems like they're going to like a much lower volume of like the Singer, like what the, you know, what Singer is to the 911.
Of course.
I think Son of Cobra's doing the same thing, but like if you notice, like he does surfboards, does really nice fiberglass work, but the way that he's tucked the rear bumper into that car, it's carbon, super lightweight.
I like that. I like that tuck on the rear bumper.
Yeah,
it just cleans up the body line so much on that car.
Yep, and that car already has. Like, I mean, if you remove the bumpers on, especially the front bumper, it has a really clean look to it to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
But that bulge and like the right size tire, like, you know, and the great thing about those is that you don't need a lot of wheel for those to get what you need. One, they don't weigh a lot.
No, they don't weigh a lot at all. That's why all that 1.8T is all you really need on there.
Well, I mean, yes, it's slightly sacrilege to put a diesel in that car.
Yeah, but we're not purists over here, you know. The purists are the ones that are sitting there that'll turn around and walk away from you when you try to have this conversation. But no, we're the furthest thing from purists, I think.
Like we're fans of the spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. And like in the case of that TDI motor, that 1.9, I mean, tons of bottom end torque. Like you don't need to spool that thing out. Now, granted, would I want to do like an S52 swap with ITBs and kind of go down the road? Oh, yes.
Another great way, but I think that 1.8 diesel would probably cost you a lot less.
Significantly. Even from a bolt-on perspective of doing a couple things, the motor gets more power out of it. You know, even just tune / chip category kind of a thing. Way easier to get power out of that motor than say do like a full S52 build.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it just. But on that note, though, like, you know, these days, like family wise, as much as I would love to have like 2-door sports cars and all that kind of stuff.
See, but now you can get a 500e. It's perfect for the whole family.
Right, but what about an E30 wagon?
E30 wagon would be nice.
See, that's another one that's on my quote unquote bucket list. And there was one that Max just pulled up that was recently just sold on Bring a Trailer. Daytona purple metallic color.
Ah, that color.
Just
see, but even on the OE wheels, it's just cleaned right out of the factory. It's just
absolutely.
Oh man, that color is, and it didn't even go for that much.
It's affordable, right?
Very affordable. Something that you would think like, oh, that thing's gonna be over $50K. Like, no, it's really not.
And here's the deal: I wouldn't change this car. Like, this is one of the few cars that, as it is, I just would not touch it. I would just leave it stock. Granted, this would be a solid candidate for an S52 swap, and a couple other things, but for what this is intended for and kind of its purpose, I would leave it OE, like, you know, maybe obviously do some wheels and stuff like that, but I mean, keep it
the family wagon.
Yeah, like, it's not necessarily a family truckster, but like the
Yeah.
family hauler, like,
Hmm.
kind of get around and, kind of scratches that, collector car itch kind of a deal without, breaking the bank and all the right looks. Even see the thing I love about the E30 wagons is yes, the front end has a very iconic look to it, as Max is showing here. Like you can't get any more iconic of that area of BMW. But the rear 3/4 view of that car, like right there with the wagon and how smooth everything is, like, you and I talked a while back with regards to wagons, where it seems like all the design work was done on the front end of the car. But then when you get to the back of the car, it's like, oh shoot, we got to get to production, like done, just
Yep.
draw the line.
No, but see, I think early '90s or even '90s, early 2000s, Euro at least, when it comes down to Audis, Mercedes, and the BMWs, they've always held it down when it comes down to the wagons. From beginning to end, always held it down. From body lines, I agree with you on that one. Like the rear, it's perfect. Everything lines up perfectly on the rear when it comes to the taillights, the wagon versus it just looking like you chopped off half a Volvo and stuck it on to another car. Yeah, no, like BMW, Mercedes, Audi, they hold it down. And see, that would be my go-to right there. Would be your RS4 Avant would be my wagon hauler, if you want to say
Couple
that
more
right
years
there.
before you can import one.
I know, but you can even get like your S4 wagons already here. Like get the 2.7 swap, not a 2.7 swap. Sorry, it came with the 2.7.
Right.
Solid motor when it runs. When it doesn't, good luck type of deal. There are definitely some horror stories that I've heard from your 2.7 crowd. I have a buddy included, and he's probably going to watch this, and he's probably going to be like, "Dude, what the hell?"
Yeah, but I would do the V8 route. I like Audi and the V8s of that era. Very reminiscent of like fuel economy wise, like the 500e. It's
Yeah,
just like
but you
a
could get
total gulper.
you get that into your B7s. The
Yeah,
B7s was that V8 era.
but like to your point though, I mean, the beautiful thing about those earlier uh, Audi wagons is that the back of the cars, like we were talking about, like it's actually part of the design. It wasn't like, oh shoot, like end it, but
Yep.
like
No,
that
look,
view right
everything is
there,
just it's beautiful. It's perfect.
weak in the knees,
Ah.
like that just does it.
Don't get me wrong. I personally would rather have the sedan, but you give me an RS4, B5 RS4 Avant, I'm running. I'm taking that in a heartbeat.
I mean, the sedans, sedans are definitely one to consider, but just something about this size of wagon and like car, just as a whole,
Hmm.
just checks all the boxes.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Audi holds it down with the wagons.
Oh,
They
yeah,
honestly, they've never really made a wagon that I'm like, that thing looks ugly, or like it looks ugly in the rear. Like everything from front to end has always been a plus for me with the Audi stuff.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
See, and then where I would depart from here, though, is I guess getting more to like the roots of cars. Sort of appreciate. Not that I don't appreciate other cars, but like a 996 GT3
Oof,
would
another one.
be, yeah, like so.
The stepchild, as they
Oh,
say.
but like the 996s have a bad rep. Like, oh, the fried egg face, and like,
And do you want to know? I don't care. I'd love a 996.
yeah,
I'd love to have that in my garage. Don't get me wrong. A 997 would be more my go-to,
yeah.
but that 996 definitely it does hold a spot. Because I had a Porsche dealership down the road from my house. And to be honest, growing up, always passing by and always seeing what the new model was, that 996 was at that era where I was like old enough to be like, no, that's what I want.
Yeah, like those are pretty sweet. It's in the 987.2 where they did the gray with the red accents.
Mm-hmm.
I forget. It was the GT3 RS
Yeah.
that had that, and that car, dude, the white.
It
So
was
they,
like a Nardo. Yep. There's
yep,
actually I just saw one of those recently at a meet.
yep.
It's so beautiful.
And like the full collector version of that car is the 4-liter car.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is the, if you could have bought one new and just parked money, Like that would have appreciated more than the stock market is a 4-liter car. But this setup, that red and that Nardo gray, I don't know if they're calling it Nardo gray. I should know this,
It's a
but
type of Nardo Gray, and if
yeah,
somebody wants to
it's
call me out on the actual name on it, sure, go for it.
it's a pastel gray, like it's a dark pastel gray.
But
And
the red and gray combo it's a nice touch. It's a lot going on. Definitely
yeah,
not your daily driver type of thing, but right there, that's a beautiful car to have in the garage.
but of all the RSs, like I feel like this was a great departure for Porsche.
Hmm.
Not that they've not done, like Porsche and color is synonymous, right? Like
Hmm.
they're known for their colors, but to have such a contrasting palette on that car and just go from like gray to red, like a bright red, is just a total. And even like the non-RS variant, like what Max pulled up here, it's just clean, simple, and like a total.
A 997
Total bummer.
turbo has my heart probably more than I'd rather have a 997 turbo. I know everybody's gonna say it's a GT3, but like something for me, that 997 turbo body and the lines on it and everything, it's beautiful.
And I wonder though, like from a buyer perspective, if the 996 turbos are still, because for a period of time, those were like if you wanted to get into the Porsche landscape, like the turbo landscape, all the 997s, 991s, all those were starting to get into real crazy money. But for whatever reason,
The
the
996
996 turbo
didn't.
was like the buy. Now, granted, not an aspirational buy by any stretch of the imagination.
But
You
it
know,
depends
like,
on who you're talking to, though. Like, don't get me wrong. When money's not endless, like this is a solid buy for under 50K. Get into a 911 turbo. I'd 100% take a 996.
that's a Florida car right there.
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna go put miles in the coastal
that's
region.
well. We're not saving. We're not saving miles for the next owner or anything around here. I want to beat the car.
Well, you want to enjoy it, right? Like
Yep.
there's it was something like there's an old quote from Jerry Seinfeld, and he's like, the person that's losing the game is the guy that's got the most miles on the car, or sorry, the
No,
least
the least
miles
miles on the car.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
least miles on the car.
And he's
It's
right.
like, own it, enjoy it, like you.
100%. Why buy it if you're not going to drive it?
Yep. But like that 996 GT3, so that one that Max pulled up is actually, I think now was owned by a good buddy of mine, and man, like just a stunner of a car, and it's sort of the last raw 911 you can get your hands on. Now, granted, don't get me wrong, like the new GT3s are craziness, but there's something that car I don't even think had like PASM or whatever acronym you want to, Porsche acronym you want to throw it at. It was more like manual steering. Okay, you will give you some brake assist and like, an updated suspension. But other than that, like it was pretty much a go-kart in relation to what today's GT3s are.
Don't get me wrong. Like I was just at a meet this last Sunday, and it was more of like your exotic end. And like when you walk through and you see all like the 991s, the 992s, they're just stock. It looks like I'm walking through a dealership. Versus when I take the next road and I see a 996 turbo that's lowered, wheels built, or even like a 997 that was like parked the next row over. Like I get more excited about seeing those than I do on any of like your newer Porsche stuff. Does that?
Yeah, and like the newer ones, I feel like the belt line has gotten too high, the wheels have gotten too big.
It's
And
it's a big car.
it's a very big car.
It's a big car.
And especially, one of the cars that's on my list is a 74 Carrera. And, especially when you compare that to today's 911s or even like a 996 GT3,
Mm-hmm.
it's even smaller than that.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I'm a bit of the pot calling the kettle black here, but, I've got a wide body set up on my car, and man, like the narrow version of these cars, it's just, man.
This is going to be a non-popular opinion, but I love the narrow bodies when it's aired out.
Yes, absolutely.
When the narrow bodies are on air, it's like a Volkswagen on air. It's just perfect. They go hand in hand. I think it's the body lines change completely when you see those things on air. Yeah,
What
look at that. That's beautiful.
I mean, that's a 964 on air,
Mhm.
and I feel like if Singer didn't come into the picture, those would be very affordable right about now.
100%. I'd agree with you on that.
I mean, Singer, it's like a double-edged sword with Singer in the 964. Like they make it better, but then they also ruined it because it's just
See,
now everyone that owns one, they're like, oh, Singer's gonna buy it, they're gonna build a car, or they're gonna turn into a 930 that they're doing now, and like,
I get where you're going with it, but I am a fan of the Singer builds. I thought they were always cool. I even bigger fan because I personally I'm a 993 guy.
yeah,
I another non-popular opinion. I'd take a 993 turbo over a 964 turbo. Again, don't care. It's my preference. But that 3.6 by turbo on that, it's the perfect car on your 993.
well, and
But
the beautiful thing about the 993s is that they never really dropped in value.
no, never.
That is the last air-cooled 911, and they have just held the value. And like, Gunther is essentially doing,
Gunta
what
works.
Singer did to the 964. They're doing that to the 993.
Big fan of the Gunta works, but they're
Yeah,
they're again they're wide as well compared to
super
like your
wide.
normal stock body lines on your 993. They're big.
I mean, I'd probably argue that they're probably putting a 12-inch wide, 10-inch front wheel in that car.
Oh,
That is
easy.
a lot of wheel in that car. A
Easy,
lot of wheel.
big time easy. But yeah, no, a Gunther Works would be a nice add to the garage. But a 993 turbo would be more than I'd more than suffice on that.
Yeah. I just wonder what I would do with the Gunther Works car as far as, because they have the newer variation of it where I think they just released it at the Rolex reunion or during Car Week, where it was very much a bit of a throwback to aero discs and
Yep,
all that kind of fun stuff.
I was
And
just gonna say that too. I think I just saw that the other day. It was like a blue one with the white arrow covers on them, arrow discs on them.
it's like the love child of a 959 and a 993.
Yep, exactly.
Just that thing does it.
Yep, there it is. Big fan of this. I actually love the hood scoop on there.
Yep, absolutely.
Fully functional, of course, because it's Gunterwerks. Like how I
But
say Gunterwerks?
well, I mean, could you though? I mean, look at those discs though. Like that, they did it, man. Like that build checks the boxes.
That checks all my boxes real easy.
I just, I guess from aspirational perspective, I would adopt that car. It would take
100%.
me a minute to get there,
It'd
but
take me a long bit to get there.
and I think these guys are putting, I think at least a 4 liter in those things.
Yeah, it's a 4.0 in there, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's a strung out 4.
Yeah, I love it.
Like,
I'm a big fan of the Gunterwerks. Don't get me wrong, it takes away the classic portion of it, if that makes
yep.
sense, with the LED lights and all of that. But big fan of what the Gunterwerks does. I like the Gunterwerks more than the Singers, but again, that's just me on the liking the 993 body more than the 964.
Oh yeah, no, I
But
mean that and
with
like with the ducktail on it, and
100%. But with more realistic build would probably be like a 944.
well, listen, a 944 with an LS swap.
No,
You
see,
know,
I saw it, and don't get me wrong, I loved every second of it. There was the same meet that I was talking about before with like a guy rolled up with a beautiful, clean red 944 with the LS swap in there, and it looks great. It fits in there, but I think it's just such an overkill motor for that car. I feel like you don't need that much. Like personally, for me, I'd probably be going more in like that VW VR6 aspect, even maybe a 2.5 turbo,
yeah,
5-cylinder
I've never
turbo
seen
in
that
there.
done before.
Oh, they've been done. The VR6 swaps have been done on that 944. Even I saw one, and it's probably more rare, but it's an Audi 4.2 V8 done in there. It fits perfectly in the car.
I could get behind that. I mean, the LS just at least here in the States would just be that much easier.
Oh,
right?
100%. 100%.
But the Audi into that would be a solid. I mean, put a Corvette LS3 in there. Yes, please.
Yeah, no, don't get me wrong. It tickles my fancy on that, but if I were doing the build, it's gonna be a VR. I'd love to do a VR turbo in there, but a 2.5 with single turbo on there would be beautiful. I think that'd be just enough power for the car. I think anything more is just like overkill.
Yeah, I mean, but overkill can be fun.
Overkill could be very fun. Yeah,
You
there you
know,
go. The 2.5. Look, it's
yeah.
it's there's so much room in that 944. You could fit a big motor in there, but I just feel like that 2.5 with a turbo will be more than sufficient on that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to be said about not overpowering a chassis, right?
Yeah.
And just, yes, you want to have fun with it, and whether you want to drift or canyon or whatever, it's always fun to just goose it out a little bit and have some fun with the car. But when you're having to constantly fight how to drive it
Yeah. It
because of the
makes it
power aspect of it, like
it's
that
not
that
fun.
ruins the experience.
100%. I'll agree with you there. But yeah, that's a 2.5 turbo in there would be pretty cool. Personally, for me, I love the way the Wookiees 3.2 sounds, or any VR really, the 3.6 as well.
Yeah.
I think those are probably one of my favorite sounding cars. So
It's and Max has jumped to one of the other cars that's on my list. Like I said, I have an eclectic mix, but I would love for this car to make it to the States, but I've got some time to wait. But the 70 series crew cab from Toyota,
mhm.
I'm a big fan of the Land Cruiser just as a whole.
Uh-huh.
There's a LX 470 in the driveway, and thing's a beast. But the fact that Toyota still makes the 70 series to this day is, I think, a testament to what it is. And like it is. I guess the big question is like, why would someone think something like this is an aspirational purchase?
Hey
You know,
man.
I'm a fan of utility, and the fact that it's as hard as it is to get them here in the States, I would argue there's probably just the journey to get one here legally would be an aspirational journey to begin with.
It really would. I think
I
that's
mean,
probably more of if Pablo Escobar was still around, he'd probably be driving one of those things around.
oh yeah, I mean, and these things come with a V8 turbo diesel motor in them in Australia and a couple other places. And
It's
I
so
I
cool
would
though. You still
do,
have the old body lines on this thing.
but it's like a refined old body line.
Yeah.
That's the best part. Like the earlier the earlier ones seem like they're a little slightly more chiseled, but still just as boxy.
Mm-hmm.
This just and even from a utilitarian aspect of these things, all the windows are flat,
Mm-hmm.
like the door windows and stuff. And they did it because if you're in rural areas and you can't get access to glass, like, automotive glass and things like that, because this is a flat plane glass, you could essentially have it cut to put in.
Very interesting on that.
I mean, it's like all the little things, but
It's little things that nobody thinks about though.
no, but it maybe back in the day they thought about it,
Oh
right?
yeah.
But like today, when you think about what's readily available and how to get stuff and supply chain and this, that, and the other, a lot of modern automotive glass is relatively easy to get. But because these things were built to be in like rural areas, Toyota did their homework and they just held on to it. And why it's not here in the States, to me, is what makes it an aspirational purchase.
I feel like it wouldn't do good in the States. Like it would only be like people like you and me buying these things versus anybody, their real market in the States.
Well, I
It is
think part of it
cool
also
though,
do with
man.
like,
I do got to say that thing is pretty cool.
oh yeah, and like probably why it's not here in the States is just for crash regulations and
Mm.
all the government regulations that go along with new cars. Um, just couldn't make it here. But man, if there was a way to import this thing and make it road legal in the States, like day to day normal kind of stuff, man, I'd be all about it.
Just buy a farm and then just drive it around on your land. You don't even have to drive it on the road. Just
I
make
am
like
in
off-road
Tennessee.
trails. Just buy a bunch of land and just make off-road trails so you can drive it around the states.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, well, I guess if I was still in California with all the BLM land, that would probably be possible to just kind of roam about. But here in Tennessee, a lot of it's private land, and I just
It's all right.
it's just land.
It's just land.
Ugh. But
Would be good.
so while it seems like I think you and I share similar ideas as far as like German cars.
Oh yeah, Scott's not gonna like this one.
But see, this is where I'm gonna bring it back around.
You want to know something? Because I think me and you both are gonna bring this back around.
Okay,
Because
you go first.
all right, if I'm gonna go first, and this is a secret love of mine. Probably one of the. Oh, look at Max just prematurely bringing it up. That one actually wasn't mine. That was John's. But one of my biggest JDM loves, and probably would be one of my first JDM buys, would be a DC2 Integra Type R. It's so left field for me. Again, nowhere near like what I would even look at on a regular basis, but just something about that car. Just I love it. I love everything about it. It just screams 90s. I love everything about this car.
Would you do it in the white or the yellow?
No, I'd go yellow. I'd be obnoxious about that one.
I
want everyone to see, yes, it's a Type R. Yellow.
There's a video producer guy I know in LA area, and he picked one of these up. I think it's his daily.
Oh, it's a beautiful daily.
He takes it to Laguna. He actually puts track time on it. Like I'm with you on this one. I was actually gonna put this one on my list of like
it's
something to get that's totally like it kind of obtainable, but it's something like you've got to work for it.
You got to work to find the right one. That's really it.
They're out there, but
also people are going to want crazy money for them.
Yeah, rightfully so, though.
Oh, 100%. I'm no disagree. I would do the same, but that is probably one of the first JDM cars I'd buy, besides like a Lexus LS, because that's just a big stance body car for me.
You gotta go low and wide with the big old
yeah. Oh yeah.
But this thing is so athletic in nature, but just to the point and simple and not overly done.
Yeah.
And a lot of what makes this car what it is underneath, not necessarily from an aesthetic like yes, Type R logo and a couple other unique features to the vehicle, but like the way that the body was made, spot welded body, like it's just everything is taken to 11 on this car.
Oh yeah, everything is taken into consideration with this car, and that's probably why I love it so much. Again, everybody could say, R34 GTR, blah, blah, blah. I don't really care. I'd take that DC2, no problem, all day.
Yeah, I would definitely add it to my list as well.
Yeah, that'd be where I end that off on. What about you? Where would you go? Let's bring Scott back into here because Scott's gonna love to hear this.
So I'm looking at the big brother to this thing, right? I'm looking at the NSX, and I would do an NA2. The NA1s are great, and I think back to like that old NSX video of Ayrton ripping that thing around ripping around the Japanese circuit
with his loafers,
and like probably put in one of the fastest times around, right?
Yeah.
But I would go NA2 because they went from the 3-liter motor to the 3.2-liter motor. They went from a 5-speed to a 6-speed, and it was And I appreciate the pop-up headlights, but something about just that slight bulge in the front,
big.
It's trimmed out, it's sleek. But I would go diving for the spoon one that was done. That's the Type R NSX.
Mm-hmm.
It was converted to left-hand drive.
Ooh.
Listen, I'm game for right-hand drive cars. I think they're awesome, but to go left-hand drive with the Type R NSX, that to me would be top of my list of aspirational cars I would want to have.
So in the frowned upon.
Why? Why is it frowned upon?
I don't know. To take a right-hand drive and swap it back to left-hand drive, or swap it to left-hand drive.
Yeah, but I mean, if that were the case, we would not be upgrading cars.
This is true. I'll give you that.
I mean, that's part of. I would say this is part of car ownership, is making it what you want the car to be.
Touche, and I'll give you that because I was just saying earlier in this how we didn't want to be the white bread purist. And look at me over here. I just pulled out a purist comment so fast.
Now, don't get me wrong. If I could get a right hand drive version of a Type R NSX, okay, fine. Like,
Yeah.
granted, I'm oversimplifying it. Like, I think it would be awesome, but even just to own an NA2 NSX would be that would be definitely a aspirational car. Like, it's almost on the verge of being a halo car for me. Like, what is just the NSX as a whole, and kind of how Honda's mindset is, and it's not a ton of power. It really just is focusing on the driving experience,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what the NSX is all about.
It's a great car. Sad to see it go too.
Now, the newer one is pretty dope. I mean,
Newer one's dope, but it doesn't hold that old NSX value to me. Like,
no,
it just turned into an exotic, just like what they did with the GTR. I don't know.
I mean, they still a very raw car, incredible car, but there's something, sort of the lack of technology.
Which makes it better.
Yeah, it just, I mean, look at that thing. It looks wicked, especially in that orange. Like, that does it.
I like them. Don't get me wrong. Definitely not saying anything bad about these, but I'm definitely going to take pop-up NSX all day. Pop-up headlights all day.
So, are you going down the McLaren road then? Is that where would you do a McLaren
No,
aspirationally?
no,
No, doesn't do
no.
it.
I have a McLaren dealership that's close to my house too that I pass often. And like, don't get me wrong, they're beautiful cars, but if I'm going down that road or in that price bracket, I think I'm gonna go either Ferrari or Porsche. But that's just that's just my taste.
Oh, Max Bull F40. I mean, great. That and a 959, like those two go. That's the battle of the ages, right? I would probably rather go 959 than F40.
Mm-hmm.
But keeping in tune with the JDM side of it.
We just keep going to these cars that just are getting more and more pricey to the point where it's like they're dream cars. Never gonna own them.
Well, I mean, listen, we can all aspire to kind of professionally name it, right? And it's cool.
Overnight Bitcoin millionaires.
Right?
That's the only way, dude.
The only tough part is like the tough part about owning like those gnarly Halo cars is just the service side of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, as Max is pulling up here, an EK Type R, this would be an aspirational car on my list. I mean, small, simple, refined to the nth degree, and I would have no qualms putting miles on this thing and just running it, because for one, it'd be a hell of a lot cheaper to run than say, a crazy Halo.
Honestly, you'll probably have more fun with it.
Way more fun with it, and that's the whole point of buying these cars, right? So you can actually enjoy them and put miles on the road. The smiles per gallon, I feel like on something like this is better. I'm probably gonna get some hate for saying that, but the whole point of getting these cars and kind of having these experiences, you can actually experience it, as opposed to just sitting in your garage staring at you with a wink and a smile, teasing you every time you look at it.
Yeah,
it's like, okay, you want to tease? Like, okay, let's go to the boardroom. Like, let's go. And that's what these are.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with you there.
But just the look and the simplicity and all the right things.
Me and hot hatches. Yeah, I'm always gonna appreciate a hot hatch.
I mean, if you roll up to someone's house and they had the Integra Type R and a Civic Type R in the garage, you'd be like, that dude won the lottery. I mean, it's like, Or if it was like a McLaren, like, oh yeah, like there's your Bitcoin millionaire, right? Kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
deal. But versus if you see two of those, like, all right, like I would probably argue that that person understands and how to appreciate vehicles.
Yeah, exactly. Well, on that note, I hope everybody lets us know what their cars would be.
Yeah, definitely. Like, drop it in the comments below. Let us know.
On that note, boys, we are out.
All right. Well,
Great seeing you
very much for
guys.
joining us. Doubt, as always. It's a
It's
pleasure
always,
talking
John,
to you.
pleasure. I'll talk to everybody soon. Later.
Adios.